Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to DevChatter, and welcome if this is your first time here to the channel. Today we are doing a special event stream. A lot of you, I hope, are really excited about it. I am. We are going to do our first Learn to Code stream. So this is going to be a stream where we are walking through a lot of the basics, and we are going to learn to code in C#. I would say together, but I already know how to code in C#. So hopefully you are planning on learning to code in C#. So whether you are entirely new to programming, just a beginner in C#, or you know another language and you want to learn some of the syntax for C# to be able to program in it, welcome. Have a seat or stand, up to you. Grab a keyboard. Install some tools for working in VS Code. So, I didn't start the bot. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm going to start up our bot. That is my mistake there. So the bot is now in the room, and I am going to have it tell you all about the tools that you need to install in order to get set up with this. Welcome. I see a lot of people showing up in chat, so I want to make sure we get started at a reasonable pace. So if you are planning on following along, we have instructions there that I posted in chat. There are also instructions on this blog post if you want nice links and things like that. We've got places for you to get set up. And Commander Root, welcome. Thanks for following. So we will also have some other people in the chat who already know C# and are pretty good with it. So feel free to ask your questions in chat. If I get to them, awesome. I'll try and get you the best answer I can. But if I don't get to it, there are other people in chat who will probably try to get you the right answer to your question. The way we're going to do things is we're going to be working on some programs together, and I am going to explain what we're going to be doing, and we're all going to follow along and build them together. So I will build it the same time you do. So, should be easy stuff. We're going to start out simple. I'm going to try not to go so slow that someone that already knows how to program gets too bored. Even when someone already knows how to program, they don't necessarily know how it works in C#, because our language works a little bit differently. So the tools that you need to install, I'm going to walk through at the beginning here. The first tool that you need to install is VS Code. So that is the text editor that we're going to use for writing these programs. Remember that for anybody that's brand new, programming is really just editing some text, and then our computer, the tools that we use, are going to turn that text into code that the computer understands and run it. So we work with something that humans can read. And the level that we do that on is this one. We work inside of an editor. So this is VS Code. It is the tool that you're going to install when you click on that first link. So it will take you to this page here. And you just click to download, and it should be able to tell what operating system you're on and get you the right one. But if not, you can pick the correct one. So if you're a Mac user, Windows user, or Linux user, you are still set. Okay, so VS Code is free. It's free whether you're using it for business purposes or your own personal needs. So this is a very simple text editor. You can actually use it for a lot more than just programming in C#. So it's a very common editor for JavaScript as well, and a lot of other ones. Okay, so once you get that installed, the other thing you need to install is the .NET Core SDK. So this is a fancy thing. It is basically it's our software development kit. And this is essentially the libraries that are going to make everything else work. So the code you're going to run is going to build against the .NET Core, and when you run it, it's going to run against the .NET Core runtime. So you actually just need this link here, download .NET Core 2.1 SDK, and then once you get that installed, and these are just simple installers. Once you get that installed, the way that you can confirm this is you open up VS Code. Once you have VS Code open up, down at the bottom you should notice that there are some little tabs here. And thanks for the bits, Seb. Click on the terminal one. So terminal is a fancy word for like the command prompt if you don't know the term terminal. It's where we can run things. So all we're going to do is we're going to type in the word .NET. And I'll remind everybody that this is what you type in to check it in a minute. So D-O-T-N-E-T, all is one word, all lowercase, and you should get some kind of response. If you got a response, that means you got .NET installed. When you do that, you should be able to say --info. So it's telling me here I can run info, and when I do that, it comes back with a bunch of information. So you'll notice I have quite a few runtimes installed. You're not going to have as many. You're going to have like one. You're going to have one probably, the one that we just had you install. But this should come back with some things. As long as this comes back with stuff, you are set. Okay, so here's what we want to do. I need to close out of the stuff that I have open here, because you guys don't want these. So we are going to close the folder. So it's going to go back to my welcome screen, which I don't care about. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the project that we're going to work in. So you can choose the folder where you want to keep your code. I make a dev folder in the root of my drive, so DEV, but you can put it wherever you want. I do that because it's a nice, easy place for me to be able to find things, and it's addressed where I know that I've got code. So easy to find. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to figure out what folder I want. So I want to say open folder, and then it put me in the place I want to be in already. So I'm going to open up learn to code, and then I made a folder for today's date. You don't have to structure it that way if you want, but that's what I'm doing. So open folder is what I went with. So this is now a folder. You'll notice there are no files in it. When I go to my terminal again, which if you lose track of your terminal, notice my terminal's not here anymore, there's a couple of ways you can bring it up. So in VS Code, I can either hit the control key and the back tick, which is a weird way of getting it open, but that's one way. So you'll notice it opened up here when I did that. But there's another way to get it up as well. You can go up here to View, I believe it's View, and Integrated Terminal right there. And so that will also bring it up. So if you lose it, remember, just go up to View, and then you're looking for Terminal, which is right here. Okay, so now that we've got this up and everything's running, I'm still going to give a couple of minutes for people to get installed if anyone is still setting things up. And for anyone who's already a developer in C#, if you want to use Visual Studio, you can go ahead and follow along using Visual Studio, and it's up to you whether you want to use the command line or not. Is there a name for the language or syntax used in the terminal? So, short answer is yes, async awake. And it depends on what you're in. So I'm in a PowerShell terminal. Yeah, so yeah, so Greendolf is correct. So it's up to the program to determine what that is. But here's what we're going to do. First thing, so I told you that we had the .NET command. Well, .NET has all kinds of options that we can do. So I want to type .NET, and then notice it suggests an option of --help or -h. So I'm going to do that first, because I want you to see that whenever you're using these command lines, you can do that. And yes, James, if you want to just run PowerShell, you can just run PowerShell. The reason I'm suggesting this one is because it's integrated into the tool, which is pretty easy for a new programmer. So if you want to go another route, you are perfectly welcome to. Okay, so here's why I ran this. So I ran .NET help right here. You can see that. And then what it came back with is these are the commands that I have available to me. So yes, this is pretty simple stuff right here, but the .NET SDK and CLI is pretty new even for developers that run C#. So what we want to do is I want to make a new application. So this will initialize a new project. So I want to say .NET new. And actually what I can't remember is if I need the word console on the end right now. We'll find out. Yes, I do. See? So it told me. I did this and it said, oh, hang on, wait. I need to tell it what kind of new thing I want. So I want to say console application. So I could type out console application, but the short name is just console. And also notice that inside here, it has various language choices available, and C# is always listed as the default. So if you're doing .NET stuff, C#, the language we're learning here, is going to be the default one. So let's go ahead and say .NET new console, which I think you guys can see that. Seb the Third. Yeah, so This is live, but all the videos that we do on this course are actually recorded, and they're in the videos section here on Twitch. So you can find them here, and then when they expire on Twitch, we send them over to YouTube as an archive as well. But the best way to ask questions while we're doing this is to be here live. So if you do want to program along with us, as I said to anyone who showed up here right at the beginning, make sure to install the tools that I just linked there in chat. So that is Visual Studio Code and the .NET Core SDK. If you install both of those, you can follow along. I should also mention, before we continue on, that you want to click on this little box link here. This is the extensions. And then once you get that open, you want to search for C#. So just C and then a pound sign. And it should come up as being from Microsoft. As long as you find that one, go ahead and, well, this would say install for you. Do that, and then it'll change to reload, and then you'll get all the fancy stuff that I do when we're programming. Okay, so I said .NET New Console, and notice what happened here. It said that it did a couple of things. It created a file for me right here, so I have this CS file. It created this CS_proj file right here, and then it has also done a couple of other things. Yes, Seb, did I not? I thought I did call you Seb. But yes, welcome. Okay, so notice that it popped this up, which is partially hidden behind the chat here, so I apologize about that, but it says that there are required assets to build and debug that are missing. Now, I can let VS Code do this for me, and I can just say yes, which is what's hidden behind the chat window there. Or I could say no, or don't ask again. I am going to say, I'm actually just going to close it, say not now. Actually, so notice that it says right here, this source is the C# extension. So that C# extension I just told you to install is what's actually telling me that I'm missing some things. But I'm going to show you how to get those ourselves. So what I'm going to type instead is .NET, and then can't quite see it because it's hidden behind that. So I'm going to say not now. We're going to type .NET Restore. Okay, and now I want to say .NET Build. So these two steps, that first one is the make sure that I get all the stuff I need step. And then the second one is actually, remember, I told you that we're typing in code. So this is literally our entire program right now. This is going to get converted into code that we're going to run. And when we run it, it is going to go ahead and print out hello world. So if you can't guess, our next command that we're going to do is run. So we're going to do .NET run. Yeah, Katrina, you should absolutely do this in VS Code if you haven't. Because you can do all this stuff from the command line. Okay, so here is the magic. Take a look at what just happened. It just printed out the word hello world. So that's really cool. So we haven't changed the code yet, but our program does run. So if you're following along and you typed this, you should be able to .NET run and get that running. Also, I should mention, if you at any point in this fall behind, just let me know and just ask what the step is that you need to catch up. And for anybody who is showing up, there are the tools that you need to install that I just posted in chat. Those are the ones that you need in order to follow along. Okay, so we printed hello world to the window. That is right here. So this is a console write line. So this terminal window is sometimes called a console, sometimes called a terminal window, sometimes called a command window. Those are all words that basically mean the same thing. So in this case, we just said, hey, write this line of, of text to the window. As you can guess, if I copy this line and I paste it again, and then I go down here and I type .NET run. Now what is going to happen here is two things. The first thing is it's actually going to build the code again for me because it sees, oh, you need to build again, you haven't built yet, and then it's actually going to run the code again. So when I do that, it's now going to say hello world twice. So if you follow along and you do that same thing and run that and you see hello world twice, congratulations, you are now a programmer. So yeah, so the idea here is that once you've done that, you've actually like made changes to code, run it, and it works and, you know, print something onto the screen. So that's pretty awesome. As you can probably guess, we can change any of these words that we want. So we could say hello DevChatter. Also, pro tip for other people, if you click on those numbers, it highlights the whole line. So now we can run this, and I can just change those values. So these are called strings in C#. You can tell it's a string because it is surrounded by these quotes. So this is text in the language. We have a couple of things we can do with this, so make sure you change this a little bit, play around with it, and I want to show you something neat. So we'll talk about these later, but you'll notice I can't put a quote in there, so things get messed up and I try to put a quote. We'll talk about that kind of stuff later, because there's a lot of questions that I'm sure you're going to have about how that works. Okay, so that's writing to the line. A couple of things I'm going to do here. I'm going to put a $sign in front of that quote. So for now, just follow along with me. This is a special thing in C#, and what that does is it tells it this is going to be a special string. That $sign is money. This is one of the coolest features in C# right here. So if I want to change this, I can do what is called, I'm going to create a variable. So if you're new to programming, a variable is how programmers store things. And in C#, we create a variable by specifying the type of the variable, which I am going to tell it to you this way first. And I'm going to call this name. And for name, I am going to store the value DevChatter. So if you look at this text, basically what I wrote here is, I want a variable named name. It is a type of a string, so that means it's going to be a string of text, a string of characters. It's one of these things surrounded by quotes. And I'm putting the word DevChatter in here. So now, if I take this, remember I told you this $sign did special things? It actually lets me do this. This is why it's money. Because we can now put in these curly braces. So I have two curly braces, an open and a closed one. And now when I put in the value name here, that's not the word name anymore. That is now referencing this variable. So what is going to happen is at runtime, it's actually going to put that value inside of that string. So it's really cool that you can get away with that, and let me show you what happens. But I think you can all guess. So when we run this, it says, hello DevChatter, what it was just saying a moment ago. But if I spell it correctly, I can then run this again and say, hello DevChatter. So Greendorf, you're totally correct. Yes, the syntax highlighting is nicer in Visual Studio. And Seb is just going to shower me with biddies, apparently. Okay, so console.writeLine. So we're going to do another one of these. Now I want to show you the value of having that variable. We can say, hello DevChatter, and then we can say something along the lines of, I hope you're having a great day. And then we're going to say, I really like the name. Name. So what we did here is we basically said that we want to use this same value in two places. So when I run this, as you can probably guess, it's going to say, hello DevChatter. And it's going to say, I hope you're having a great day. I really like the name DevChatter. So, Katrina, make sure that you start with the command line and do .NET new, and then say console. So, you want to make sure you run this inside of the terminal in VS Code once you have opened a folder. So do open a folder, and then type in that command into its terminal window. And welcome, Dat Sparrow. Thanks for following. So that's all you have to do to get this. And yeah, Katrina, it is a little bit weird. So this is actually closer to how a lot of the non-Microsoft world works. So outside of Visual Studio, this is how more coding works. All right, so we got this running. And it does that. So that's really cool. I'm actually going to shorten this. We're just going to say, hello, I really like the name, right? So I'm going to run this. Hello, I really like the name DevChatter. So that's cool. We can reuse the value. So this lets us reuse things. There are some other cool things that we want to do. This time, let's do a console read line. So write line puts text to the screen. Read line pulls it from our terminal. So when we do this, I want to do something first. I want to say console.writeLine. And if you're wondering, there's something I want to tell all of you about if you're not used to it. Notice when I start typing something, it starts guessing what I'm typing. It starts highlighting letters, even if I get them out of order, right? I could type console, right? And it knows I typed conos, and it can tell I mean console, and it'll fix it. And then I could say write line, and it starts filling that in, and I get tab completion on all of this. So I want to make sure I point all that out. So when you're doing this, really try to look at what those are, because if you can't remember what was the thing Brendan typed, as you're typing, it's sort of going to help you. Yeah, no problem, Steve. Hopefully everybody is enjoying it and able to follow along a little bit. Okay, so for this console write line, I want to say, what's your name? So we're going to say, what's your name? Then we're going to read line. And then what I want to do with this read line is I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it here. So now, the value we get from our read line, no, you're not too late at all. Everyone, you're welcome to join. Mayan Anger, Olivier, I would guess, Boxy Baby. Yeah, exactly. So welcome everybody. You can go ahead and get set up. So if you already have VS Code, awesome. If not, the instructions I just posted in chat. There's a couple of things to install, and then you'll be able to go. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. And if you have questions, just ask in chat for how to get set up, and me or someone else will chime in and let you know. So no, you're not too late at all. Boxy Baby, so we're doing VS Code instead of Visual Studio because for someone that's new to C#, it is much easier to just install VS Code. So this is a lightweight editor, nice and easy. This will scare people away because it's loaded with tabs and all kinds of extra stuff. So one of these, so Visual Studio is like a 10 gig install, so that's why we didn't suggest people do that. This is like a 100 meg install, so much easier. And thanks for the follow. And I hope I was right about the pronunciation of your name, which I guess I could just say Oliver? I don't know, depends. Okay, plus this is cool for people. Yeah, exactly. Yes, Boxy Baby, it's not difficult to install, but it is huge and takes a long time. So, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, sorry about that, Andy. Yeah, we don't let people, well, yeah. Well, I can tell you, it is really difficult, I can tell you as a streamer, it's really difficult to get people's names right, because I never know what country they're actually from, because there are, it's like, oh, that's spelled the same way as this other language where they pronounce it like this. I don't know which one you are, and so it's tough to guess. So even if you know something about the language and have a guess, it's always hard to figure out where those came from. Okay, so let's run this code, because I think you can all guess what this is about to do. So I'm going to do .NET Run, and it says, what's your name? So see that printed right there? It says, what's your name right beside my head right there? And it gives us this little cursor, so notice it's ready for me here. So I'm going to say, actually I'm just going to say Brendan. So my name is Brendan. And then it says, hello, Brendan, I really like the name Brendan. So if you just got to this point and just ran this code, I hope you're excited, because that's where you actually start seeing, oh, I'm now able to like interact with my program. This is like a real program now. It actually does a thing. So I think that's pretty awesome. Oh, wow, blah, blah. Yeah, Greendorf. So that is the fun part right there, is whenever you actually see something working. And Greendorf, I will tell you, VS Code is much easier to install than Visual Studio. Let's see, it's a good idea when I learn Java, we start with Notepad. Yeah, exactly, Mayan Anger. You want to start off with something simple, and that's why we're in VS Code. Because we don't want the editor getting in the way of your understanding the language. Yeah, Wicked Blue Ninja, no problem. I've been looking forward to this for weeks now, since we started the planning for this. Okay, so that's how we get this. So, if you got to this code right now, congratulations. You are doing really well. If you're not here yet, please chime in and let us know, and we will help catch you up. There is no need to worry about any of that. And welcome. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so here is the next thing that we want to do. So we now have console write line and console read line. So you have now mastered the basics of interacting with the user on the command line. And thank you for the follow. Okay, so here is the next thing that we want to do. So we can greet people that show up, but I really want to do something more fun. So we're going to say, what's your name? Hello. And then let's change this next line here. I want to say, so name, what's your favorite number? So I think you can probably guess where I'm going from here. I want them to give me a number. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of things that someone else in chat that's a more experienced programmer knows that there's a significant difference between a number and a string in programming. So I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I'm going to tell you what to type. So just go ahead and follow along with this, even though you won't know exactly why this works the way it does just yet. But don't worry, I will explain it eventually. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say int number equals int.parse. And actually, I'm going to do this. And out number. I'm going to change up the code, so give me 1 second to adjust what we're doing here. I'm going to do this. Out int number. Okay, so anybody who's experienced with C# knows that I'm skipping a couple of things, so guys, don't worry about it. I'll explain in a minute. Andy, does the $sign in front of the string tell C# to fill in the variable placeholders? Yes, Andy from Lithuania, that is absolutely correct. For anyone who is wondering, that is a feature called string interpolation. Now, interpolation is a giant word that basically means insert into, so it's essentially insert variables into your string. So, fancy word, that's all it does, that $sign. Okay. When we run this value is actually going to return back a string. So, I am going to store that. So I can show you. I'm going to call it raw text. So we're going to make a new variable. Remember, like we did before, when you type string and then followed by a variable name, you can then use an equals sign to tell it, I want to store the value on the right side of the equals sign into the variable on the left. So this is a new variable right here called raw text. Once we do that, we can then parse. So parse is a special thing that basically means I want to get some type of value out of that. So we want to get a number from this. So the number that we're wanting to get here is called an integer. If you don't remember this from when you took math in school, Integers are the whole numbers, essentially. So think 1, 2, 3, and it is not included in the list are the ones with fractions, so decimals and things like that. And yes, Till, I'm not going to show that right now, but yes, it's really awesome. Okay. Let's see. For those just getting here, steps to install. Oh, awesome, Greendolf, thank you. So the question of whether or not I've programmed any games, the short answer to that one is no, like, published games, but I have worked on games before. So I've worked with a couple of game engines, just like fun stuff, made a few like first-person shooter-style games with friends before, but nothing professional. Okay, so our code now does a couple of things. We now ask it for our name, we say hello to that person, we then ask them what their favorite number is, and we pull that out as a number. So now what I'm going to do is I want to write out that number, and now the reason I want to do that is because I want to show you the results. You chose number. So I typed this, I forgot my $sign, I'm going to add that to the beginning. So $, you chose number. So if it ever prints out, let me show you what would happen if I didn't do that. So I forgot my number side at the beginning. You'll see I just type in my name as Brendan. It says, hello, what's your favorite number? We'll say 4 because it was right near my finger. And you'll see that it said you chose number with the curly braces. So if you see that, you immediately know, oh, whoops, I forgot my $sign. So let me go fix that. And then we'll run this. And then I can try it again. So I can say that my name is DevChatter this time. And it says, so DevChatter, what's your favorite number? Well, DevChatter's favorite number is 71. Clearly, because this is episode 71 of DevChatter. Which is pretty awesome. So you chose 71. So that's cool. So that is working. Let's run the program again because I want to show you something else. I could have put in my name as a number, right? And that was fine. But what happens if I try to put in a word? Like that word. It says I chose 0. So right now, as we wrote the code, it doesn't break. But if they gave us something that wasn't a number, it just says 0. So, and we'll cover that in a later episode why that happens, but I just want to let you know that you are safe with this code. If they do that, you're just going to get back a 0. So it's hard for them to choose 0 also, because right now we didn't actually look to see. Yeah, so I am hitting Control S to save this program a lot. I probably should have mentioned it. Thank you for the comment, Katrina. Yeah, so I'm pressing Control S each time before I run my code, which, if you watch, you'll see that this turns red when I have broken code. But if I do this, change this, you'll notice that that changed into this big circle, and then when I save, it's back to an X. So I have a little visual indicator of when I need to save and things like that, but yeah, you'll want to pay attention to that. So make sure you save your program before you run it each time, if you're not seeing the changes. So when I run this, foo and 3. So there we go, chose 3. Is out int inside the try parse essential? Yeah, so Seb, that's a special structure. I said I'd explain that one later, so just follow that one for now. So just do this as is. If you don't want to write this confusing weird part, the other way to do it is this. You can do an int.parse raw text. And you could do this instead. So this is also valid. So notice I didn't use a try parse, I did a parse. So you remember I told you that this one's safe from someone putting in a word, but doing this, if they put in an invalid value, it's going to throw an exception, so your program will crash. And I will show you that real fast so you can see it, because I've been waiting to show you all what happens. Now, I could Greendolf, that's why I said I was going to do something a little weird. Okay, so, and thanks for following. What's your name? My name is Brendan. So, Brendan, what's your favorite number? Well, my favorite number is 7. And then you'll notice that the program throws an exception. So see this big ugly mess here? This is basically saying, so it says unhandled exception, and this is the type of the exception, and this is the important thing that tells us what was wrong. So if you ever get one of these, make sure you actually read it, because a lot of times it will give you good information about what actually happened. So programming languages are really good about this. So this one says input string was not in a correct format. Now the other important thing to notice here, aside from that, is we can see that it was doing, string to number. So that means it's somewhere where I was doing code where I was taking a string and turning it into a number. And then the last thing that's really important is down here, notice when I bring my cursor over this, right here, it says line 15, which by the way, this is line 15. Right here you can tell because I've got line numbers turned on. When I click that, it opens up this file if I didn't already have it open. So let me close that. It should open when I just control click on it. And boom, I'm right here and my cursor is on the line where this broke. So it's really cool. Yeah, Till, it would be crazy. So this is called a stack trace. This just told me where in my code it failed. So that's actually the piece that broke. And actually, we'll leave this one in for now. So we'll use that number bit. So we'll let it break if you type in a bad one. Yes, thank you, WTF Blub. I can imagine that world because it's this world. This one. So this one, what's your favorite number? 7. Okay, so you chose 7. So why am I getting a number? Here is what I want to do. I want to do something fancy. I want to say, right line, we're going to make this program a little snarky. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it say, I like the number plus 1 better. It's larger. Okay, so our program is actually now going to tell us that it likes another number better. So I'll explain what I just did there in a second. So I want to put in my name Brendan, say my favorite number is 4, and it says, I like the number 5 better, it's larger. So it actually chimes in and says that. Okay, so what did I do? Remember I told you that whatever's inside the curly braces is what it's going to print. Well, it didn't print out number plus 1, the string. It took this number, which was a 4, it added 1 to it. So it made this a 5. What we could also do to make this a little simpler, remember, we can always use variables. So I could say int better number. So this is declaring I want an integer value, so I want to store a number. And when I do this, I could say number plus 1. And then that'll actually store my int in here. And I can then say better number. So I like the number better. It's larger. So if I run this again, what's your name? My name is Brendan. Spelled wrong. And then my favorite number is this really big number. Well, it likes an even bigger number. So that is pretty awesome. Andy from Lithuania. That is great. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, Greendorf, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to explain that one just now. So what Greendorf is talking about when he says to overflow it, there is a limit to how large a number can be stored in an integer. So just remember that, and we'll worry about that later. Because we're still working on the simple things. So we have a number. So let's do some fun stuff with the number. So I want to do this. So we wrote some other code here. I want to write something different. So remember, we're starting really simple right now. So we already asked their name, we said hello, and then we said, hey, what's your favorite number? And then we got their number and we stored it in this number value. What I want to do now is something special. Now I'm actually going to start off with a very simple piece of code. But it's gonna be weird at first, so just let me sort of explain what we're gonna do. So I want to make this easy for you. So what I want you to do is type the word for, F-O-R. Once you've typed that in, you'll notice that the editor starts trying to help you, and it has some suggestions. So you can see these in here. So VS Code is trying to help me. This first one, it says 4 on the left and it says 4 on the right. So see it in both places? The second one down says 4 on the left and it says for loop C# on the right. And it's got this little information icon here that if I click on it, you'll see it expands and shows me what it's going to make. So this is called a snippet. So if you're new to programming, I have some news for you. So programmers do amazing things. They build stuff. It's magical. It's awesome. We get freedom to create whatever we want, build awesome things. Or mundane things. We really get to build whatever we want. It's up to us. But the cool thing is we don't have to do all the work ourselves. So in some of this code that we do, we let the editor do it for us. So once I have this highlighted, so I didn't actually need to open that, I just wanted to show you that. I have the second for loop, the one that has this extra stuff on the right highlighted. When I hit tab, it puts in this structure for me. So see how it put in a bunch of code? Now I can hit the tab key and it auto-completes all these pieces. Now I could have typed in values here, but I didn't. I want to put in the word number here. Now this is a weird structure. Weird structure. So this is complicated right here. But it looks complicated. We're going to explain it, but for now, just let this go as is. And what I want you to do is say console.writeLine and say you are awesome. Okay, whoops. Let me type that right. Okay, so something else that I want to tell you that I hope you've just been following along with whatever I'm coding and actually, just typing in what it is we're typing up here. So hopefully that I'm not going too fast for anybody and you've got time to type these in. But a couple of things I want to point out that you've probably noticed. I'm putting these semicolons at the ends of all these lines. That is a requirement for most lines in C#, except there are a few circumstances where they aren't. You'll notice that there's no semicolons at the ends of these lines, and there's no semicolons at the ends of these lines. The simple way to tell whether or not you need a semicolon is, first off, these lines, as you can probably tell, are a little special because they are defining a section of code. This is called a code block. So from this curly brace down to this curly brace is a block. We don't need semicolons for that because it defines itself, which means we don't need one here or here either. But the special thing is the line right before each one also doesn't have one. So I just wanted to mention that. Oh, Katrina, if you're not getting the IntelliSense, here's what you need to do. So anyone who's not getting that IntelliSense to create this for loop, go ahead and do this. So that last thing that I mentioned, so Async Awake just posted in chat to install these two programs, but then it says, then run VS Code and install the C# extension. So go over here, click on this little box icon here on the left, and search for the C# extension. So that's this one right here. When this loads, you'll see that there's a C# extension, and it's from Microsoft. So go ahead and open this one, and go ahead and click install, and that will get you all the fancy C# stuff. So remember I told you C# is an editor. So it is an editor created by Microsoft with the intention that you can Yeah, so once you install, as Greendorf mentions, this icon is going to change from install to reload. And it also might say it over here on the left. If it says that, just click the reload button and it will actually... yeah, VS Code is an editor, not C#. VS Code is an editor that is for C#. Yep, Katrina, yep, you do the reload button once it does that. And the neat part is, whatever you've got running when you do a reload, it's still going to be there when it reloads. So reloading is a safe operation to do. Okay. So what this code is going to do, we're going to run it first, and then I'm going to explain what it does. So I'm going to type .NET run. Now it's going to ask me my name, and I'm going to say Brendan again. So Brendan, what's your favorite number? Well, my favorite number this time is 3. Okay, so awesome. Really glad that worked. Yeah, Andy from Lithuania. Yep, just .NET run, and that's how you run your code. So nice and simple. And if anyone else is getting set up, because I know we had some people that came in a little bit late, if you've had time to install things, what you want to do is you want to go to File and Open some empty folder that you create on your system. So go ahead and go to Open Folder and choose the folder where you want to build this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to type .NET new console. So that command that I just typed in there, it's .NET new console. So .NET new console. I just typed it into chat as well. And that's actually what's going to create your program, and it will open it up on the screen for you as well. So then in the future, if you ever want to load this program again, all you have to do is open the folder that you put it in, and you'll be back in this program. So for your development, the easy way to do things is just remember one folder per program is going to be the easy way for you to do this for now, until you learn more about this. So just keep to that simple rule and it'll be easier. Okay, so what it did here, you'll notice it printed out "You are awesome" 3 times because I said my favorite number was 3. So it printed that out for me. What I can do now is this. So I could do some other fancy stuff. I could say, "You are awesome," and I could put in my name. So I could go ahead and run this again using .NET run, and I could say, "My name is Brendan, and my favorite number is 6, and I didn't put the $sign at the beginning." So remember, I told you, if you ever don't remember to put the $sign in, it just spits it out with the curlies. It treated it like the value instead. So now I'm going to put it in, and we're going to try that again. So now it says, "You are awesome, Brendan." Yeah, and Andy from Lithuania, if you're used to Visual Studio, you also don't need to save in there. But in this, because it is just a simple editor and not a full IDE if you're used to programming, that's one of the big differences. And welcome, thanks for following, Anotsu. Okay, so let me explain how this worked, because I want this to be clear. There's another way I could have written this. Actually, there are a lot of ways I could have written this. Async awake. Answer to what question? Okay, so to explain, because this is a little weird. This is broken into a few different parts, and I'm going to explain what each part is by doing this. So the next thing I want to teach you is a comment. So if you type 2 forward slashes, this is not run. So I just want to put this up at the top. So we're going to say this is a comment. Comments aren't code that gets executed. So this text up here that turned green, that's called a comment. These are here to sort of talk to yourself or another programmer that reads this code in the future. So it's here just so you can make a note. So if you want to tell somebody, "Hey, I did this, this is why," or if something's confusing and you don't understand how it works, you can put in a comment to help yourself in the future. As you get better at programming, so just more experience, more practice, you'll find that you'll need the comments less often. So there are some things that you'll comment early on to remind yourself about things that you won't see as often in other people's code. So don't worry about adding comments. If adding a comment helps you write code, add the comment. So you'll find some developers out there that will poo-poo comments, and if you watch my regular streams on here, you'll see that I don't comment many things. And the reason is that I and most of the developers that are going to work on the code that I write usually know how and what I just built. And so we'll comment the things of like why I built it that way if there's something weird about it. But for you, go ahead and comment whatever you need right now because it really is helpful. So remember, this is your code. Make sure that you understand what it's doing. So if adding a comment makes it clear, add it in. So I am going to add a comment. Yeah, exactly. So as Till said, sometimes the comments are pretty easy. And it's easy to understand. So this comment you'd never find in a professional programmer's code, but I'm going to put it in here to help explain to you what's going on. So, my for loop. So what this does, so first part, which I'm going to line up with right here, this is the initial, this is initialize. So we initialize some variable right here. So this is the first step. The second step is we compare welcome, The Real Crix. Thanks for following. Yeah, so as Greendorf said, you'll run into teachers and programmers that that comment way too much. And so if you are going through a computer science school or a programming school or something like that and they tell you to write lots of comments, just do it even if you don't need it. Just do it, trust me. Okay, so yes, exactly. So as everybody's saying, comments are great when you're learning, but eventually, yes, exactly. As Katrina said, so what we try to do is we try to write our code so clearly that it doesn't need a comment. So that's the big thing in programming, is try to make your code so clear that someone doesn't need the comment. So that's why we don't comment, is because I am going to turn down that alert. So we'll still have it pop up, but I will turn off the sound for now. Exactly. That's correct, Till. It should be clear what it's doing. Okay, so initialize, compare is the second one, and then the third one is increment. So this isn't 100% true. So anybody that actually, somebody that knows well enough what's going on, knows that I'm technically lying here. Be calm about that. This is close enough and helps you understand how it works. And understanding how to work with this is more important than understanding the underlying structure that actually does this thing. Wait, hello. Okay, so this first part here, so we said this is initialize. So initialize, notice that I have the word int here, and then an I. So what this actually does is this creates a variable. Remember I said you type the type name and then the variable name that you want. So in this case, we're creating an integer called I and setting its value to 0. So that's our initialize. We set up this variable. Once we do that, we then want to set up a comparison. So we say, essentially, while I is less than the number, we want this code to keep running. And then this is a fancy way of incrementing I. So we did this, we ran it. I wanted to show you this because it's easy, and this is the way that you're really going to do this kind of code. But before we do that, I'm going to show you, but we could keep this code. I'm going to show you something else that does the same thing. Because in programming, there's always dozens of ways to do the exact same thing. So you can do it the way that makes sense for you. So now I'm going to type the word while, W-H-I-L-E. And again, I'm going to choose the one that says C# in the IntelliSense. So this little suggestion here, this is called IntelliSense. You'll hear about this on the internet. But I want to choose the one that says while loop C#. When I hit tab, it puts in the word while true. Don't worry about that. We're going to change this. I want to say while I is less than the number. Okay, so notice that this is this piece here that I just put in there. The next thing I want to do is take this code here. So I'm going to take int I equals 0, and I'm going to declare this right before the while loop. And welcome, anybody who just showed up from the C# Fritz stream. We are doing a Learn to Code stream today, so if you want to join us, go ahead and make sure that you've got Visual Studio Code installed and the .NET Core SDK. If you've got both of those, we are doing our beginner level course where we're going to be doing this on a regular basis, so I've got a few more of these scheduled. And you can actually find those events here in the events section on Twitch, and it should be a lot of fun, so hopefully you're all following along. So here's what we've got. So this value, followed by this value, and then what I want to do is I want to take this last one here, so I'm going to take all three parts of that for loop and put them inside of our code. So when I do this, I can now write our same console write line, and I am going to comment this out. So when we use the phrase comment this out, that is a special programmer word. That means we want to make each line that code is be a comment. So remember I told you that any line that begins with these two slashes is a comment and is no longer executed by our program. So when we do that, we've essentially commented this out. So it's a way of not deleting it, but making it so it's not run anymore. And yes, Janiscu, the dinos are learning to code. Okay, so each part of that has been added here. So this code should actually run the same way as the last one. So we're going to say .NET run. If I didn't mess anything up, it will. I'm going to answer the question, tell it my name, and then I'm going to tell it my favorite number, which I'm really just changing my favorite number all the time, everybody. I just can't remember. Yeah, exactly. So Andy is correct. So I will explain in a minute. So it printed out this code. So notice that I was able to write this with what's called a while loop. This one is called a for loop. So they're different structures of doing the same thing. So essentially, let me read this to you. So we create an integer, we call it I. I has the value of 0. While I is less than the number, in this case we gave it the number 4, while I is less than 4, we want to run the code that's inside of this block right here, from that line to this line. So that is called a code block, and we want to run this as long as this remains true. So this line here increments the value of I. So that means after we run through this loop the first time, I gets a value of 1. The second time we run it, it gets a value of 2, and then 3, until eventually I is no longer smaller than our number. It will eventually equal our number. Once it does, we will leave this loop and continue on with any code down here. So I could write console.writeLine, and I could say I finished looping and I is now I. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I finished looping and I is now that. So we're going to take a look at what the value is when it's done. Let's see. So there really isn't a situation where a while loop would be ideal. So there are some places where a while loop is better than a for loop. It just depends. if you want to go a known number of times, so we know how many that it is because we've got this number in here, anytime that's the case, a for loop is better. If you don't know, then a while loop is better. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay. For anyone else new, Shift-Alt-F for formatting the code. Alt-Shift-F. That didn't do anything. Oh, yeah, it formats the code, but mine was already formatting. My solution for this, Kipo, enumerable will repeat. Blub, that is not the answer. Don't listen to Blub. Don't listen to Blub. Okay, so that's our comment there, and then I am going to run this code. So let's do this. .NET run, and then I want to say that my name is Brendan. My favorite number is 7. So now what I want to show you is this. The value here, it says I finished looping and I is now 7. So that means I was 7, and because 7 is not less than 7, it exited this loop. And we got down here, and the value of I is still 7. So that is awesome. Yeah. Yes, Greendolf is correct. Although, Greendolf, there are a couple of times when you do need to use the for loop. Couple of times. Okay, I want to show you all a dangerous mistake. A dangerous mistake that you can make. Let me show you. Okay, I want you to see what I just did here. So see this? I is less than number. I want to say this. Let's say that I messed something up. I flipped that the other way. Now first off, I'm going to run it and it won't be a problem. So I am going to say, what's your name? Brendan. And what's your favorite number? I will say 4. Okay. So it didn't run. This is the easy mess up. Now I'm going to show you the big mess up in a second. So Brendan, what's your favorite number? 4. I finished looping and I is now 0. So notice it didn't run it at all. That's because I was never larger than 7. But let's do this. What's your name? Crazy person. I am now crazy person. What's your favorite number? My favorite number is -13. Okay, so now what I'm doing here is a little bit crazy. So I'm actually letting this run, and what is actually happening, so if you see, I can scroll forever, because it is continuing to write these, and bad things are happening. If you ever do this, what you need to do is you need to hold the Control key, and you need to hit C. Control C. So, on your keyboard, just remember Control C. Yeah, don't worry, I can't see that scroll bar either, because it's tiny. So yeah, Greendolf. If you do that, hit Control C. My program was running out of control and continuing to run forever. It was eventually going to crash, but I was able to stop it by hitting Control C. So, the reason for that is that my number was always greater than that one. So, because of that, I was always greater than my number because my number was negative and we started at 0. I ended up in what is called an infinite loop. So that means I'm going to keep running that loop forever until my program eventually crashes. Okay. Alright, so next thing that I want to show you guys, there's another way we could have done that. So first off, let me flip this back and convert, flip it back to a less than, well, I is less than the number. And anytime you're doing anything like that, where you're like less than, greater than, spend a moment and think about it. I don't care how many years you've been programming, you are going to mess those up. Slow down and think. We all do it. All of us. I've been programming for 20 years and I can tell you, every single time I stop and think before I write any kind of less than or greater than value. because it's easy to mess up that logic. Okay, let's run this again. I'm going to do .NET run, I'm going to tell it my name, and then once I do that, I'm going to tell it a number. And boom, it works perfectly. So we're right back to the code where we wanted to be. I do want to mention to anybody that is showing up that we are doing a Learn to Code stream, so welcome. If you're from the Divide by Zero show or C# Fritz and Friends or any other, or you just stopped by for whatever reason, we're doing a code along, we're learning C#, so we're teaching everybody how to use C# and how to program. So whether you're new to programming, new to C#, or you just want to make sure you cover all the basics and understand all the different pieces, welcome. The first thing we're going to ask you to do is install VS Code. So that is an editor from Microsoft. It's this one right here. I just linked in the chat to where you can download VS Code. It's a small install, easy editor, very popular, very nice. And then the next thing you want to do is install the .NET Core SDK. And that is actually what that second link is. So that is actually the software development kit that lets you write these .NET Core programs using C#. So if you download those, you can go ahead and code along with us, and you can follow along, ask questions, and we will try to help you. There are a number of people in the chat that are experienced programmers, so if you are an experienced programmer, hang out and either follow along yourself or just help people in chat. Either way, up to you. And if you are new, welcome. Don't worry, there are no stupid questions. We're starting out from the absolute beginning, so if you run into anything, any kinds of problems, can't figure anything out, that is totally okay. Just let us know, and we will try to help. And Andy, yes, when you write code like that a lot of times just add in the parens, even if you think they're not necessary. Okay, so this code runs 5 times. So I just showed you that if you flipped this value and did some things wrong, you could create an infinite loop. But the most common way to get the infinite loop is actually to forget this line. So I said that I have this value, and we call this, so we call this value I. This is our iterator value. So this one is going to increment, and it's going to allow us to go through this loop. If I forget to change its value, it will never be larger than the number that we specify. So this will never complete. So when I save this and I run it, it doesn't matter what number I put in here, I can just say, 1, and it just keeps going. So remember, if you run into an infinite loop, Control and C. So Control C, it's the same as the copy command that you use in other programs. This will just cancel your program, it'll stop it. Trecht, Brendan, how do we use a for each loop? For example, a for each loop isn't really going to apply to that one. Too bad C# does not have scopes. I don't know what it is they have, but it's weird. Blue Spide, we do have scopes. We have scopes, we absolutely have scopes. For each is not our scope. So our scope is usually method scope, but we have scopes at different points. If you mean like, can we just make a scope in somewhere? The short answer is kinda yes, but they work a little differently than some other languages in ways that I don't want to get into. Yeah, so Blue, what you're talking about, and I apologize to everybody else, the name, so scope for naming is larger than a lot of people from other programming languages expect. So we can't use the same name, even though the variable only exists within this scope. So in this for loop, it would only exist with, the name restriction still applies to the whole method. So you're right, that is a consequence of C#. But I don't want to get into that right now. It's pretty high level for what we're covering here. Okay, so we set this up. This created an infinite loop because I did not increment that value. So when I put this back in, everything works again. So that's a for loop. It's nice and easy. I want to show you how it works. You could do a lot of things. It's essentially whenever this statement becomes true, or as long as this statement remains true, we continue to run the code. So that's fine. But I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I like the for loop better It's a nicer loop for this kind of thing because we're doing a specific number of times. So if you know the number of times you want to run your code, because you have it as a number, use the for loop instead. And don't worry about how I uncommented those. I used a keyboard shortcut for that. But this right here, we'll increment this. And now I want to show you something cool. This is actually what Blue Spide was talking about. If you notice, there's a little red line right under here. It's kind of hard to see, but right there, there's a red underline below that letter I. So my program can actually tell that this is not part of the string. This is a special I in here. It knows that that is actually supposed to be this variable. However, it is not able to work because this I is only allowed to be used inside of this code block. So when I run this, we're actually going to have a build error. Okay, so notice it says the name I does not exist in the current context. So, cool. The other thing to notice here is this says at 25 right here. So that's telling me in program CS at line 25, and the 65 here means column 65, or 67. So if I were to count all the way over, you'll notice that the column down here, it says right here, line 25, that might be hard to see, and then column 68 is selected. So if I'm right here, you'll notice line 25, column 67. So this, it told me exactly where that problem happened. And yes, Blub, there is. So this right here, if I control click on that, so let me just close out of that so you guys can see. If I control click on this link, ooh, it didn't pull me to the right place. It took me there. That's weird. So normally it'll jump you to the right spot. So it was telling me about that. So this line won't work as is. So I'm going to get rid of it. So that's how that one works. So we now have this for loop again. And I like the for loop. So the next thing I want to do is this. So I showed you all how that works. However, I want to show you something else. I want to show you now how an if works. So the if in C# right here. So again, for these, make sure you're always choosing the one that says it is C#. It says if statement C#. The other one will work, but it doesn't auto-complete you a thing. So when I hit tab, it just gets rid of it. I want this one here that says if statement C#. And when I do a tab, you'll notice it also started with the word true, just like our while loop did. So that means that we need something that can evaluate as true or false. So, like before, I could say number equals 7. So I could say if number equals 7, I might want to say console.writeLine. I could say that's great. 7 is a common favorite number. But then what I can also do, I can copy this code, and I could say 13. That's strange. Many people are afraid of 13. So I can write code like this. So I could say if my number equals 7 or my number equals 13. Now there's an important thing that I want to explain to everybody right here. Notice up above I said number equals the value right here. and that sets this variable. Down here, I used 2 equals signs instead of just 1. Make sure that you use 2 equals signs when you write this, because this is how you compare the values. The other one is an assignment. So if I did this with just 1, that is an assignment, not checking for equality. So this is how you do it. So be careful about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. And my name is still Brendan, and my favorite number is going to be 7 this time. And notice it says that's great, 7 is a common favorite number. But it did not say this one. Now I'm going to run it again, and this time I am going to say that 13 is my favorite number. And now it says that's strange, many people are afraid of 13, instead of saying, you know, the comment about 7. So it did not run this code the second time, it ran this code. So you can sort of control which code your program runs by using these if statements. To answer the question of is there a triple equals, the short answer is no. And the reason why is that in C#, the double equals works the way that you'd expect. So it actually is, so it is doing a full type comparison in here like the triple equals does in JavaScript. So that's why we don't have a triple equals. So in JavaScript it allows it to change, that's why they have a double and a triple equals, but in C#, they actually have to be the same type. So as an example, so we were using that number variable, and I just wanted to show you how that worked. We don't actually need to keep that, but I want to show you something else. I could do this. Yeah, so, Andy, yeah, so there might be other languages that use the triple equals, but C# already did a strict comparison. So, if I type, you know what, I'm going to show you guys. So, over here, there is a debug console that I can write stuff in. So, I can say 4 plus 4, whoops. Please start. Oh, I need to debug. Well, sorry. Start. Okay. Let me do this. Is this gonna work? Okay. There we go. Okay, cool. Alright, so I want to show you guys a couple of things. I'm doing a fancy thing here just so I can show you a couple of things in C#. So I could say 4 plus 4 and, whoops, and, hang on. I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm just going to do it in here. Don't worry about that for now. We'll do it here. Okay. I wanted to do a couple of fancy things, but I'm going to write it instead. We're going to do it as part of the console. So let's do this. Console.writeLine. So I want to do a little bit of coding just to show you the results of things. So I want to say 7 equals 7. Why is it not like that? Does it want me to cast it? Oh, because it knows they're different types. Let me do this. Let me see if it'll let me get away with this. Equals 7 object n equals 7. So I just want to show you what some of these people in chat were talking about. Yeah, so here's the idea. So what I just wrote here, and I'm going to show you what happened. Twitly doof. Can you also do hello unit, or do I always have? You always have to do it that way. So the $sign is outside of the string. Short answer there. Okay, so .NET Run. Here's what we're gonna do. What is your name? B. Number 4. Okay, so this spit out false. Let me simplify this. So here's what I'm gonna do. Remember I told you that you can comment things out? So I'm gonna comment out all that code. And I did a fancy shortcut there. That is actually, I held the control key and I hit K and C. And don't worry about why it's K and C. I couldn't tell you why it's K and C, but that's what it is. And that will comment it out. If I want to undo that, I highlight the same thing and I hit Control KU. So I think K might be like one of the formatting keys, and then C is comment and U is uncomment. So that's what that does. But let's go ahead and comment that back out again. So this will be our only code, and we're going to run this, and you'll notice that it's just going to print out the word false. Let me see. So aren't you comparing by reference now? Andy, yes, I am comparing by reference now. And it will not match the type. And the string cannot be equal to an int because of the amount of bits. Yeah, exactly, Greendorf. KD is like auto format or something, yeah. Okay, so we did, these values clearly are not equal. Can I do this? Nope, it's going to complain about it. I could do this. I could say 7 equals 7. When I run this one, it is going to tell me that that is true, that these are the same thing. I could also say console write line true equals true. True does equal true. I could say true equals false. And it will say true does not equal false. So it's going to come back as false. I could say Brendan equals DevChatter, which is true. Kinda, sort of, almost, a little. And when I run this, it says false. Yes, Blue Spy, that is true. Okay, I see that now those things are definitely not people who started... Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this again. So this is our starting piece here. So there's some weird stuff going on there. Let's do something with this. Now, see, the program knew, James. The program knew. Okay. So we have this running. We're able to store values, so I want to do a couple of things. So we wrote this. I want to ask a couple of other questions. So I want to say, so we said, what's your favorite number? I showed that we could modify it. Remember when we replied back and we said number plus 1, right? And we stored this as better number. So we wrote code like this earlier, and then we had our program respond back and say, hey, I like this number better. But there are a couple of things we can actually do. We can reuse a variable. So I could actually say number equals number plus 2. I'm going to take this code and I'm going to cut it. We're going to put it up here, and I want to say console.writeLine. We're going to say I like number better, so I changed to it for you. So we're going to have the program change the numbers. So what I did here is to explain. I took that variable, we used its value, which let's say we type in the number 7. We're going to have 7 plus 2, that's going to get us 9. We're going to store that in the variable, And so now when the bot talks to us, it's going to the program talks to us, it's going to say, I like 9 better, so I changed to it for you. So, pretty awesome. And I'm missing a $sign. Good call. You guys are awesome. Alright, so now we're going to run this. Yeah, pro C sharper. Pro C sharper. What's your name? B. What's your favorite number? 3. And now you'll notice it says, I like 5 better, so I changed it for you. Changed to it for you. And so now it treated it as 5. Okay, so let's get a little bit more advanced. Let's go ahead and say, how about if, notice if you want it to complete correctly, you want to choose the one that says C#, and it will build this structure for you with the parentheses and the curly braces. We will then say if number is less than 5, we'll say number equals 5, and we're going to say the minimum number of the minimum number is 5, so I updated your choice to number. Okay, so what I did here is I said if your number is less than 5, that's what we said here on line 18, then run the code inside of this block here. Whoops, don't drag it. Okay, then run this code right here, and we're going to say set the value of number equal to 5, because it was less than that, and we said no, our minimum is 5, you have to do at least 5. The bot's going to then, the program's going to tell you about that, and then it's going to run the code that number of times. So let's take a look, and then I'm going to catch up on chat while we do this, because I see people talking. So now I'm going to say 2, and it says the minimum number is 5, so I updated your choice to 5, and it ran it. However, if I try this again, and I say 12, you'll notice I said 12 and it just did 12. It didn't care, it didn't change it to 5, because 12 was not less than 5, so it did not even run this code. So you'll see that we can kind of control which code happens using these if statements depending on whether or not we want it to. So we get to write how those work. So let's see. I also understand everything, but I'm saying that there's but will writing the variable use the same memory address, or will it allocate a new one as a string? Seb depends on the actual value. Depends on the type. You're right, that is a much more advanced question that a lot of people are going to be asking, but yes, the short answer is that it depends on the type. Some of them will, but many of them will not. And actually, C# is sort of lying to you about some things. So, a quick explanation for everybody who is in here. C# is actually a fairly high-level language. It is a managed language. So what that means is that C# does a lot of things for you and gives you a lot of power to do stuff without having to get into the nitty-gritty details of what's actually going on. That actually makes it really, really good. The problem is, what I just said, when I said C# sort of lies to us a little bit, is true. So once you learn more about the language, we're talking years down the road of programming, you will have a massive idea about what's going on underneath the hood in all various programming languages. But for now, don't worry about all those details, and just worry about how it works. So, don't worry about what it's doing underneath the hood, just know that this stuff works, and you'll learn all the rest of that as you go along. Okay, so we got this. I want to have us write a cool program together. So I've taught you a bunch of the basics for what we can do, what pieces are available. Let's write a cool thing with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start us over from scratch. So we are going to go here. I want to write a quick and easy program. This is one of the first programs that developers tend to learn how to write when they're starting out. I'm going to do a couple of things that I don't think that you guys have seen before, and it should be fun. What I want to do is this. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. 1 second. I need to do something so you guys don't see. So, number, hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, and we're back. Okay, so what I did was, over on that other line, I have int. I created a variable and I assigned it equal to a number, right? But I don't want you guys to see the number. So, since I don't want you guys to see that number, yeah, I could do that, but I don't want to do that right now. So I made a secret number, which, hang on 1 second. I need to make sure I remember the number. Okay. There we go. So now I know the number. Here's what we're going to do. Console.writeLine. I've chosen a secret number. Can you guess it? Okay, so we're going to have the program print this out. I showed you this. This isn't really what it is. We're actually using, my variable name is number. So what we're going to do is I want to say console.readLine. We're going to say that this is string guess. So this is your guess. Okay, so we're going to take your guess and we're going to put it in here. So we're going to call this your guess string. Then I'm going to say int guess equals, and I want to say again that int dot, I'll just do the parse for now, and we're going to parse this. So we're going to take your guess string and we're going to get that as a number. So remember, when we do a read line, that comes in as a string. That's what they typed in, and then we want to put that guess into this variable. And what I want to do is this. I now want to do a loop. So I want to let you keep going until you guess the number. So what I want to do is a special kind of loop that we haven't seen yet. This is called a do-while loop. And I'm about to explain how this works. So do-while. So remember, I chose the option that said C# in it. And it creates this do-while loop. And I want to say do while guess does not equal the number. So if your guess is not equal to the number, then we're going to keep running this code. So I'm going to put this code inside a whoops, cut that, paste it in there. Really? Int guess. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys something special here. If you just type in the type and a name, that declares a variable. Yeah, Brave Cobra, we're about to switch to that. So once I do that, I can then do this. I'm going to do a try parse on the guess. And yeah, I'm going to ignore the value for now. Wait, oh, right, I didn't type the word out. Okay. So when you use a try parse, it has this special syntax. Just put in this word out. Essentially, all that happens when you run this is it says we're trying to find if this has a number in it. If it does, we're going to put it in here. Okay, so now I want to explain how the do-while loop works. A do-while loop is a special type of structure. So we saw a while loop and a for loop already. This is another loop that we're going to run in C#. The do-while loop is special because it actually runs one time automatically and then does its check. So notice this whole section comes before the check. So the while is go back up to the top and run it again if this condition is true. So if it's not true, we'll continue on. So that means this loop runs at least once, whereas sometimes our while loop wouldn't run at all because it was never true. So that's how that works.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
To be honest, I'm actually not sure if you guys got the audio on that, but awesome, Seb. Thanks for the follow, sub. I know what this is. Much appreciated. Please make sure you enjoy the DevChatter emote. DevChatter. Oh, awesome. Yeah, good. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. So I actually just realized I don't want this line out here. I want this line up here. So we're going to say, I've chosen a secret number, can you guess it? And then I want to say console.writeLine, and I want to say, what's your guess? So we're going to say, what's your guess each time. So remember, the do-while loop means run it once and then see if we do it a second time or a third time, etc. Andy, sort of. It has to be set in there, but yeah. Okay, so here's what we do. We are going to say, so right now this would be really hard. You basically just have to keep guessing until you get it right, but I want to give you a hint. So let me, well, I'll show you the code right now. So we're going to save this and run it. You got it. We'll have it say you got it at the end, if you got it. Can you guess it? What's your guess? Okay, so see, it's kind of hard because I'm just putting in numbers, right? And it just says, what's your guess? Because I clearly didn't get it right. So remember, hit Control-C to cancel your program if you ever can't get out other ways. Yeah, don't judge me on my spelling. I'm a programmer. Actually, my spelling's fine. It's my typing that's a problem, Till. Don't judge me on my typing. I'm a programmer. We type poorly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to say if, and remember, choose the one that says Z#, and it'll do this for you. Now, I want to say if guess is less than the number, then I want to say console.writeLine, you are too low, guess higher next time. And then I want to say the opposite of this. I want to say if your guess was greater than the number, I want to say you are too high, guess lower next time. Okay, so this is a lot of code now. So I want to hope that you guys can see this. And actually, I'm going to change this text to just say number here. Because this is actually what's to the right, just not with the number equals 1. I chose a different number. Because for now, it's hard-coded. Okay. Oh, wow. Blue spied. Yeah, that's not what I meant. You guessed too low. You guessed too high. Twiddly doof. C# is great for programming applications. It's great for web applications. It's great for building Windows applications. If you use Unity, you can use it for game dev. There are a number of machine learning things that you can do with it too. There's a lot of stuff Microsoft is doing on it. There is Python stuff for machine learning. There's JavaScript for machine learning. There are a lot of options if you want to do machine learning. There's a lot of options if you want to do game programming. But C# is actually a really awesome language. It can do all kinds of things. Yeah, thank you, Katrina and Captain Salt. C# is a very good language. So, and yes, there are languages that are like specifically meant for machine learning. The reason why C# is good is because you can do so much with it. So there are a lot of things you can do with C#. Yeah, see, Terraria is apparently programmed in C#. There are a lot of other programs written in C# as well. Yes, unless you're doing a GUI application for Linux or Mac, that's really the only place you currently don't do C#. And yeah, Janisku's right. The nice thing is, if you program in one language, that doesn't mean you can't use that code in another language. Oh, BitLaw, oh, give me a break. Yeah, you can use Java in a lot of places too. Java and C# can do a lot of the same stuff. All right, so let's run this code now, because I think this will run a little bit better. So hopefully you all had time to type that while we were talking, and in case you didn't guess, that's why we're taking those little talking breaks. I mean, aside from just the fun that we get to chat about programming and stuff. Okay, whoops, Brendan is not a guess, and that was too low, because all words are zeros. Okay, so 1 is too low. Let's be smart about this. Let's guess... I don't remember what my number was, but let's guess 1,000,000. Okay, so 1,000,000 is... Oh, no, wait. 100,000. 100,000 is too high. 5,000. 5,000 is also too high. Let's try 100. 100's too high. Oh, I chose a low number. Let's try 50. 50's too high. 25. 25 is too high. 10. Oh, I picked a number under 10. How about 5? 5 is too low. 9. 6, 8. Oh, 7. You got it. The number was 7. Woo! Hey, we got it. Did anybody guess 7 in chat? No, no one guessed 7. Excuse me. So that is our number guessing thing. So, in case you didn't figure it out, this is what I had hidden over on the side. 7. So that was our number that we'd hidden away. So this program has you trying to guess the number 7, which if you did it right off the bat and just said 7, you'd see, you got it, and pulls you out, right? So yes, Brave Cobra, that is exactly what we're going to do next. So this is what you could do this way. That is a nice way to do it, but I want to choose a number randomly. So, random, there's actually a random library that is included inside of the .NET framework and the .NET Core framework, and I do not want to explain that difference right now, so just know that it's available to you. So, I'm going to say random, so we're going to say, hang on, random rand equals new random. Isn't that how it works? Is it system.random? Anybody remember? Yeah, thanks, Till. Yeah, I thought it was under system. Rand. Oh no, it was there. Yep, sorry, it just didn't look like it. It turned blue, which is what confused me. So, let's look at the information on this. So, 2 overloads. Turns there's greater than 0, equals 0 and less than int.max value. So I want to say next, and I want to choose a number between 1 and 1 million. Okay, I've chosen a number between 1 and I've chosen a number between 1 and 1 million. Can you guess it? So now I want to make sure that I actually got 1 million. So notice how hard it is to read this here, right here. Notice that this number, it's hard to tell that that's actually 1 million. In C#, we can actually do something to help with that. I can actually put underscores in here, and that actually doesn't modify the number at all. So this is still the number 1 million. Yes, exactly, Blue Spide. That is exactly what we're doing. So this lets us sort of get these little groupings so we can tell how big that number is. So yeah, if you haven't seen this in C#, you are totally able to do this. This is a feature that I believe was added in C# 7, so it's actually pretty new. This was added like a year or two ago. I'd have to use my brain to remember that. So this gets us our random number. So literally random, so this rand.next will get me a number between those. And that's actually not inclusive of this. So I am going to allow the number 1 million to be chosen. So the second number, if you actually read it, it would say that the second number is not included in the set that it can choose from. So I went up to 1,000,001 to basically say you're allowed to choose 1 million. Yeah, thanks, Brave Cobra. Yeah, so the funny thing is, I've actually been doing, I do What's New in C# talks all over the country at different times during the year, so I'm always having to talk about what the new features are in C#. Exhibitioner, we are doing our Learn to Program in C# series, so if you want to follow along, anybody is allowed to follow along, and if you missed the beginning, you can install these tools and follow along with all of our coding, because we're teaching you how to program in C#. If you missed the beginning and you want to follow along, you can actually check the video afterwards, or you can just follow along now, or you could watch that now if you like. It's up to you. If you do want to catch up, you can go ahead and just install those and just ask us some questions. And once you get it installed, just say, hey, how do I make my new program? And we'll show you. And if anybody else is in here and is wanting to try this, go ahead and install and give it a shot. Blue Spide, I agree. I cannot wait for C# 8. It's going to be fantastic. C# 8 has so many good things. And James, thank you very much for the 100 biddies. Why doesn't C# why doesn't C have that? Why doesn't C have what? The little underscore thingies? I don't know why it doesn't have it. I think everybody should have it. And Grefter 22, welcome to the United States. Hello, Russia. What extension are you using to get the code lens from? You're talking about this bit here that shows how many references there are to the code. I will show you all that, and then I will jump back into this. These are the extensions I have installed. I would guess that the one that's doing that is C#, but I am not 100% on that. So yeah, exactly. The underscores. These underscores, they do nothing. They literally don't do anything. You're allowed to do this. So it's pretty cool. All right. So when I run this, we should now have it choose a random number. So what is your guess? My guess is 1. I guess too low. My guess is 900,000. I guess too high. Now I want to guess 50,000. I guess too low. So 400,000. That's too high. 200,000. That's too low. 300,000. That's too low. 350,000. That's too low. 375,000. That's also too low. 388,000. Still too low. Are you kidding me? Wow. That's hilarious. Yeah. So I could try that for a while. Okay, so, yes, C# only has one extension. Editor code lines true. VS is lying to me. Now math problem maximum guess is needed to find in an optimal way. Yeah, I know, right? We should make a program to guess the number. Okay. That's kind of funny. You have to increase your binary search skills. Yes, it's kind of hard to binary search skills those ways, guys. But we're doing our best. Okay, so that was too high. So 398. Come on. 398. 500. Too low. Oh my god. 398. 900. Too high. 398. 700. Oh my god. Oh, okay, so it's somewhere between 398,700 and 398,800. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Oh my god, that is hilarious. I hope you guys get a good laugh out of that. 398 and 750. That's too high. Okay. 25. That's too high. 12. That's too high. 10. Got it! There it is! It's 398,703! Woo! We got it! Yes! Woo! Oh man, yes, I agree. Okay, there we go. No, this is not VB, this is C#. That's awesome, we actually got to the number, so hooray, we got it. But you'll see our program totally works. But maybe if we're going to do that on stream with a guessing thing, instead of going up to 1,000,000, I should go up to 1,000. Because, you know, that's a little easier to get to. So I could do like 500, too low. 700, too low. 900, too high. 800, too high. 750, too low. 777. 789, hey! Look at that. This is way, oh, 785, there we go, got it, see? Oh, you wrote, added a secret key combo to poke. Oh my god, 10, not 1,000, 10. I'm willing to do 100, Katrina. I'm willing to do 100. Okay, so anyway, hopefully some of you were able to write the same code that we just did here, and that this makes sense. Notice that this is one of the only examples of where a do-while loop is useful. The other option where a do-while loop is useful is if you're ever building like a menu inside of a console application, that's another point where this is useful. This is not a super common one, but knowing that it is available is very useful. Because sometimes you will want to run your loop one time and then decide if you want to run it again. And so this lets us get away with this. So the do-while loop. We also talked about the while loop today, the for loop, and the only loop I did not talk about today is called the for each loop. Now the reason I didn't talk about the for each loop is because it is a special loop that works a little differently. We're going to talk about that one on another stream, and it will be a pretty cool one. There are a couple of things I still want to show you all about how the for loop works, especially for a lot of the beginners. And yeah, Till, we're going to talk about methods in the next stream. So our next stream is where we're going to talk about methods. So, and yes, for anyone who didn't make it to this one, I am still going to be pretty clear about some of the early stuff in the next one, but we're mostly going to focus on the new thing because I'm going to recommend people watch this video to get caught up. So, here is what I want to show you. I want to show you one other thing. Before we do that, I want to show you a basic for loop. Actually, let's put it at the top, just so that we don't have to have this. The encumbered one, thanks, I really appreciate it. That is a very nice thing for you to say. Okay, so here's what I wrote. So this is a for loop, just like the ones we've seen before. So we start off by creating this loop, and it says we have this number, I, that we're going to increment by 1 each time we go through the loop. And we're going to do this until I is equal to or greater than 100. So as long as I is less than 100, we'll keep doing this loop. So that means that this loop is going to run 100 times. Now I want to do something with this loop. Actually, why did I do 100? Let's do 10. 10's easier to see. So we're going to do console.writeLine, and then inside of here, I'm going to say hi. So for now, let me just say hi, and then you'll see what it's going to do in a second. So you'll notice when I do this, a lot of times I'm just, I run the code even if we're not done. And the reason I'm running the code all the time is because I can make sure I haven't broken anything. So as long as I just go in here and I just say, hey, let me just run this again, I can get something that kind of works. Selecting the lines to comment and then hit Control /. You're talking about I can comment these and I can hit Control / to comment out? Oh yeah, I forgot. VS Code lets you do that. So I was saying Control C and Control KC and Control KU, but you can also just hold Control and hit / to comment out the code. That's what Brave Cobra was mentioning. Is this series going to use version control at all? Yes, Seb, we are going to use version control, but that is not going to be an early thing. And actually, I have this code in version control, so people are going to be able to find this out on our GitHub after the stream. This is actually going to get pushed out there so people can see it. But since I didn't comment it, since I didn't check it in at all different points, we're just going to have whatever the final code is that we commit in here. So, and yes, BitLaw, this is a series. And so, to answer that question really quickly, if you are on Twitch and you see this, there is actually, there is an event for this. So we are on Learn to Code in C#, episode 1. You'll notice it says it is happening now. And the next one is going to be right here. So there is a whole series of these. So I linked it in chat, so if you want to follow along, that is the place to make sure that you catch all of these streams in the future. We are still going to be doing all of our regular streams as well. Okay, so here's what I want to do. And thank you for following the encumbered one, much appreciated. So instead of printing out that string, I want to print out the number that we are in the loop. So I'm just going to put I inside of that. So the cool thing is when I do a console write line, it'll take almost any value and it'll print it to the string, no matter what the value is. Whether it was a string, whether it was an integer, it doesn't matter. So notice it printed out what the value of I was at each time through the loop. So notice because we were incrementing it, the value is going up each time. So that's what this little fancy thing does. That just increments that value. So this would actually be the same as writing, you know, I equals I plus 1. Whoops. Yeah, just like this. So this is effectively the same code as this, but that's the normal way that we write it. So just get used to reading ++ means add 1. So if you've heard of the programming language C++, that's kind of all it means is like, it's like the next version of C. That's kind of the fun little thing that they were saying. So if you've ever heard that, that's actually where that came from. Let's see, do you use other languages too? Noticed it said episode 71 in the title, but number 1 of... So, Exhibitioner. So this is our first episode of our Learn to Code series, but of DevChatter, this Twitch channel, this is episode 71. So we normally do a lot of programming together, but we do it at a higher level. So that's sort of what this is meant to be. This is our beginner level stream. So I want to make sure that it's clear which ones are which, so people can decide to attend one or the other. VS Code integration is kind of... yeah, exactly. Some people like that again. Yes. And as Blue Spide said, C# is an increase of C++. So if you've heard of C and C++, C# obviously is built. It's designed to be another step forward from those. So that's kind of the idea. Okay, so this prints out the numbers. So we're going to need that for what we're going to do in the next stream. So that's why I wanted to make sure I showed you that you can actually print out these numbers as you go through the loop. If I started this loop at a different number, so I could decide that I want to start it at 5, and then I run this program, you'll see it's going to do 5 through 9 and print those out. And I could change this number to say like 24, and I can manipulate these all I want. And so you can do the same kind of thing, just playing around with it and making these changes. Now what's neat about this is I can then also put logic in here. So I could say if I equals 4 console.writeLine, this one is 4. Now I need 4 to be able to appear, so I'm going to set that back down lower. So we're going to go from 2 until the number 9, and at 4 we're going to print out a special thing saying that we found 4. Okay, and when you get red squigglies, just go and look for whatever it is that is making it red squiggly on you. Because you probably have some kind of syntax wrong, and it's going to try to help you figure it out. But really the best answer I can give you is to just look around for what problems you can find and fix it until it works. You get better at it over time. Alright. I like it called asking people the way to use get as I guess. In music notation, C# means half step higher, so C# is a half step higher. Hey, Blue Spide, that's a really good point. Yes. C#, C#. Yes. That is exactly right. Okay, so we can print that out based on that. And I think that is pretty darn neat. Let me check my notes real quickly. I just want to make sure that I did not skip anything. Didn't I link that thing in chat? I linked this. There we go. Write line, read line, strings, if else, loops. Oh, yeah. So I printed out the 4. I didn't show you guys this. So I showed you if, but I didn't show you else. So I'm going to write else. So notice in our previous execution of this program, we did a run, and it printed this one is 4, and also printed out the number 4. We don't want it to print both of them. We want it to print one or the other. So say yes. You have 4 come up twice. Exactly the encumbered one. So now we're going to do this. So I changed the code to have an else. And we're going to run it to see what it does, and then I'll explain. So it did 2, 3. This one is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now the reason for that is that if I equals 4, it runs this block of code. And the else says, otherwise run this. Without the else, it's always going to run the other code. And it's only this block that was getting restricted. So by wrapping this in an else, I'm saying that it only happens if the first one didn't. I hope that makes sense. But that's going to become really valuable to us later on. People get paid to do this kind of stuff on other sites. It's nice that you are doing it for free. Yeah, Exhibitioner, it is not a problem. We like teaching people. Yeah, no, Blue Spide, yeah, that is true. Yeah, C# is the most trending programming language on Twitter. Yes, thank you, BitLaw. That's totally true. Okay, so that is an if-else. So that is actually a whole structure, and so you probably then can figure out the else is optional. You don't have to have it if you don't want. And all that runs. I think that's probably Hey, James. No. Yeah, exactly. Precisely. I charge 100 bits an hour. James got you guys covered though, because he threw 200 bits at us today. So. Is there a shortcut way to write the if-else statement? If else, that's about it. But if you're wondering about other ways of writing it, there are other structures that work kind of the same way. Exhibitioner, yes, it has ternary operators. That would be another operator that can do it. It has a lot of that kind of stuff. It's got advanced operators for doing things that I wouldn't cover in the beginner level one. Yeah, don't worry, Katrina, I can explain all those things. Yep. Yes, Exhibitioner, we have null coalescing, we have null conditionals, we have ternary operators. So if these words are really complicated, just ignore these words for a few seconds. But yes, C# has all these various different language constructs, operators, whatever you want to call them, that allow you to do a lot of really advanced things. We have expression-bodied members, expression-bodied properties. You can do expression-bodied constructors, you can do expression-bodied getters, expression-bodied setters. C# has so many various things. We have binary literals, hexadecimal literals. So all kinds of things you can do with C#. Okay, so at this point, I want to go ahead and wrap up the stream. We covered all the stuff that I wanted to make sure that we covered today. But the next stream, we're going to get a little bit more advanced. We are going to talk about methods. So methods are going to be the huge thing that we're going to talk about. And there are a couple of math-related things that we're going to do. I'm going to show you a couple of pieces in a math-related library. And we're going to do a couple of fun exercises. We're going to write a neat program that actually has some value and has some cool effects. So we're going to do that stream on, what day did I say that was? July 3rd, I think, is our next stream. Let me pull it up on the screen. It is over, not there. Hang on, let me post it in chat. There we go. Clicking on that link. So our next stream is, Monday, July 2nd. Not the 3rd. It is Monday, July 2nd. We are going to be doing some more C#, and in that one, we're going to do some fun with prime numbers. We're going to use integers, we're going to use for loops, we're going to use methods, we're going to use the modulus operator, we're going to use collections. So we're going to use some pretty advanced stuff that I'm hoping you all think is really awesome, and you see some fun things we can do with it, because we're going to write some actual code that is... Yeah, exactly, Blub. We're going to use a ton of things. It'll be fun. Yes, James, we're all aware you are way ahead of us. So don't worry about what time zone. Just it is. Hey, for UTC, I'm okay, James. All right. So that is what we are gonna be doing on Monday. The next thing I want to tell you all about, so don't duck away just yet, is I want to talk about our schedule. So I told you that today we're doing our Learn to Code in C# series. And by the way, if you somehow don't know this, all the stuff that we do here, for anybody who does know about it, GitHub is actually where we put all the code that we do on stream, whether it's these beginning, like Learn to Code streams or any of our other streams. It's all out on GitHub, everything we do here. And you can see our stream info. We have our schedule. So on Monday, we're going to do our next Learn to Code stream. And yeah, the reason I'm putting these so close together is because I wanted to do 2 Learn to Code streams before the next week. So I am actually going to miss a week worth of streams starting on July 7th. So there will be no stream there. And then you'll notice the next one is not until July 16th. So I'm actually going to miss 5 streams. So please don't kill me, everybody. But that is actually going to happen eventually. Even I take vacations. But before that, on July 3rd, we are going to have another pair programmer join us. So we're going to have Simon Timms join us. So you might all remember we had James Chambers show up on the stream previously. He's one of the ASP.NET monsters. One of his friends, Simon Timms, who you'll notice also has a monster thing. I don't know if he's still doing the ASP.NET monsters thing with them or not, but either way, he's another ASP.NET MVP, another C#, ASP.NET, JavaScript, Azure developer. He's pretty cool, and will be joining us on July 3rd, whatever date that is. So that is the plan. Should be another fun one. We're actually going to have him in with VS Live Share, so he's going to be up in the corner up there, and is going to help us write some code. So it should be a lot of fun. Okay, so trying to think if there's anything else that I want to make sure that I mention. So we'll see you then. If you haven't yet, and you are enjoying any of this, please make sure that you hit the follow button here, because that will actually... that will let you know when our stream goes live. And if you want to catch any of our videos, so if you missed the beginning of this or want to catch any of our previous videos, you can click in the videos section up above to take a look at that. Or as Async Awake has just posted in the chat, you can take a look at our YouTube channel, which has a lot of our old videos. So you can find all of our videos at one of those two places, so follow us here, subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll be able to catch all of the awesome content that we do here. And you should also be able to meet all the other developers that are here. So if you want to chat with us outside of the stream, go and check out our Discord. Exhibitioner, that is awesome. I would love to have some people around for an app security stream. It should be a good one. Yes, Blub, for 5 easy payments of just $9.95 plus a shipping and handling fee. All of this content can be yours. Can you believe it? And in fact, we're going to double the value and have the videos both on Twitch here and on YouTube. I was just kidding, guys. Anyway, so, yes. There's a cat tax. Every time the cat appears on stream, everybody has to donate 100 bits and subscribe. That's the cat fee. So every time the cat shows up, he's expensive. I'm not very expensive, but, you know, he eats a lot of cat treats. So, I was just kidding. Alright, so, anyway, I think that is actually pretty good. I want to thank everybody for showing up and participating. I hope you enjoyed the stream and had some fun with us, whether you followed along or not. If you did follow, thank you for following. If you chatted with us, if you were just viewing, we really appreciate it. If it was your first time here, we hope you had fun and we hope you make it back for the next stream. If you are a returning viewer, thank you very much for spending some more time with us. We really appreciate it. Seb, I wanted to thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that. I want to thank C# Fritz and Divide by Zero for both hosting us today. So welcome anybody who showed up from either Divide by Zero show or from C# Fritz and friends. And James, thank you for all the biddies, and Seb, thank you for the biddies. Did I miss anybody else? Oh, Brendonius. I wanted to thank Brendonius. He is my favorite of our viewers. He is awesome. He's been subscribed with us for 3 months. He's also me. Oh, wait, he's me. Never mind. Wait, hang on. I was kidding about that last part, but thank you everybody for, yeah, no, I am, yeah, so, guys, hi. If you don't know, that's me. So if you want to follow DevChatter on Twitter, that's DevChatter, but I'm Brendonius on Twitter, so slightly different. I've got both handles. I use one for gaming, one for programming. Yeah, so check all that stuff out, and we hope to see you back for our streams. And if you are a new programmer, hopefully this stuff has taught you enough that you could attend some of our regular programming sessions, and you can watch some stuff. Some things won't make sense, but hopefully enough of it will that you'll be able to pick something up. Anyway, until next time, have a great rest of your weekend, everyone, and I will see you on Monday at 2 p.m. my time. So, well, that's not even 48 hours away. Bye, everybody, and thanks.